Don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Dumpster Fire Detox after a word from our sponsors. News getting you down, scrolling nonstop, feeling like crap. Yeah, me too. This brought to you by Let's Get Offline and Back into Our Lives. Earlier this week, I asked you about decluttering one area of your life. And one of the things that I touched upon was possibly looking at social media. Now I want to expand upon that and ask you to dig a little deeper. Media in general. Media is everywhere. Newspapers, news magazines, news channels, news television shows, morning news, nightly news, This Morning, Tonight With, breaking news, social media, news on Twitter, news. And what it also creates is noise. So our goal here is getting back to feeling good and also detoxing the toxic things in our life. And there is, of course, a responsibility to pay attention to what is happening in the world. I'm not saying to stick your head in the sand, though that might feel good from time to time. But what I'm saying is we also have a responsibility to ourselves and checking in on our overconsumption and its impact on us, and truly even asking its efficacy in the world. So if you are getting these pings all day long, notice when the ping arises, or when we're watching or scrolling, how does it feel? Is the heart rate beating a little faster? Is the breath shorter? Is the blood pressure going up? The question being, is this useful to you and the world? Now, if it's inspiring you to take action, if you see something and you go and do something, great. But I'm asking you in the day-to-day, minute-to-minute interactions, how are you interacting? How does it feel? Is it necessary to have the moment-by-moment breaking news alerts all the time? Is that helpful for you? This is not a judgment. It's really a question, because often these habits happen over time without even really our conscious awareness. So what I would like for you to do is to pause and think about how much media are you engaging with, and put a number to it. How much time? So thinking of social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, breaking news alerts that you might have on your phone or in your inbox, reading news channels, watching news channels, newspapers, news magazines. How much time is that per day? Be honest. Chances are it's more than an hour. Chances are it's probably somewhere north of 2 or 3 hours. For some of you, it might even be 5. Maybe more, right? But thinking about how much time that is then a week. 35 hours a week? How many weeks in a year? 52? I'm not great at math, but that's a lot of hours. So if we're looking at things in our lives that we want to do, ways in which we want to feel more joyful, time spent with our kids or self-care or doing activities, and we say, I don't have time, here's a couple 100 hours of your life you could have back. How does that sound? Not to mention that it might make a significant change on your nervous system to not constantly getting the pings and the updates all day long. So a few suggestions here. 1, looking at how and when you interact with media. So instead of getting the constant barrage of alerts, you might choose to periodically, let's say maybe 10 and 2 and 6, to check your trusted news sources. Some of you might also have apps on your phone that monitor social media engagement, but really when you're getting bombarded from all areas, it's a little hard to calculate all of that time and monitor it through an app. So being responsible for you, checking in and seeing what is the news outlet that makes me feel the best? Is it the medium that feels the best? Is it a newspaper versus watching a television show? Is it a television show versus watching or following on Twitter? Seeing how the medium can even change the message. Oh, flashback to my NYU communications days. So looking at the ways in which you interact with media and how you might be a little more strategic and how that might benefit you. That's option one. Now the challenge for those of you who really want to go a little bit deeper, see if you can carve out some period of time, a couple hours, an hour, you got to listen to you, where you put away and aside and down all media. I started doing this a few months ago, partially inspired by the Sabbath. In Jewish culture, Friday to Saturday, there's no technology. And so that might be a long period of time for you, totally understandable. But finding a period of time to just put all technology aside and just be with yourself, be with your family, do something fun. For me, I really loved playing board games with my partner. And I also really, really loved digging through old albums and recipe cards from my family. So of course I could look up recipes on my phone in 2 seconds flat, but it's really something special to look at these recipe cards that have been passed down from generations of tried and true techniques, and then remembering who the people were in my life and in my family, looking at their handwriting. Just thinking of that. Special, right? You don't get that from Google. So if that makes you feel really uncomfortable, just the idea of putting your phone down for a period of time might be worth trying. You might find that doing this weekly after a period of time might feel a sense of relief, less draw and pull. Remember, these are addictions. There's neurochemistry behind this. So we all know to break a habit is hard and takes time and continuous effort, but it's worth it. You're worth it. As always, I'm here to support you. Keep going. You're doing great.